All right, Megan, today we have on somebody that I've actually been super pumped to get onto the show. His name's Aubrey, and he's from the UK.
I know, I'm a sucker for the accent, so I was like, yes.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like I saw this guy's content and I thought, man, this is really good quality. Like the filming is good. His personality is good. Like it's got all the parts. And I was like, damn, this guy is good. And I was like, I gotta find out who he is. So I think I DM'd you or something right away and just said, hey, I like what you're doing. And we didn't talk further much on that, but like I just kept seeing you work. Right. And I saw you doing stuff and I was like, it keeps getting better. And I was like, we got to have him on because this guy is going to blow up and he won't talk to me anymore.
Do you know what? It's, I wish I could just let you carry on with that intro because it's sounding really good on my end. But you know what? It's mind blowing when you do what we do, when you do what I do, to be on a podcast and believe in the run. What the heck? Do you know what I mean? Like you almost have to stop and go, you know what? I need to call my mom straight after this and say, Mama, we made it. I'm on the block. No, but thank you for that kind intro.
No, I do. I really do love your energy. And I like watching your videos. I don't think you can not smile. Like, it's like, you just have that energy that I don't think you can manufacture and your personality comes through and it's a joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Now, genuinely, it's not only a nice thing to hear such words, but when they come from respectable peers, people that you've looked up to for such a long time, and you're saying that about me, you know, so it's amazing to hear. So genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
All right. And by the way, I was pumping your tires to one of the, I went for a run with one of the ASICS people. And I was like, if you guys haven't found this guy yet, you got to check out Aubrey Running. So hopefully brands are listening. People are checking you out. They'll check out your channel. But, you know, obviously we want to show them what you're all about. So we're going to get the 360 right here. Meg was about to say something. What?
Well, I have a ton of questions for you, but first, I was kind of briefing you before we hit the record button that I just watched your latest video and you just crushed a 10K. So congrats on that PR.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. And I think it's one of those things where it's perspective. And I think we're going to touch on this. What I like about what you guys are doing and inviting the bigger guys when they review, there's a representation there that is underserved. And so for some people, some runners that I watch on YouTube, if they ran a 48-minute, 20 seconds, 10K, they'll probably give up running because to them, that would be a very bad day. But, you know, I'm sort of in this space where I celebrate that because that's everything to me. My body has never done anything like that. And so I made a big video about it because I've never done anything like that. And it's creating content for people like me who've got aspirations for the first ever sub 1 hour, for the sub 50-minute 10K. So thank you very much for checking that out. It literally means everything to me because this year I turned 40 and I'm at my very best, you know? So it's, when you look at it like that, it's my best. So someone else looking at it would be like, what? 48 minutes? You know, the guy who won that event did it, I want to say, in 34.
Oh, wow.
You know, he had cooled down by the time I crossed. You know,
he didn't get his money's worth.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a good way to look at it. Did he know he could stay longer? Thank you for checking that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a very fun video. And, you know, Thomas was touching on like your energy. It's like hard not to smile when you're watching your videos. Is this just how you are all the time? Like, are you just a happy dude all the time, or are we're getting the best of Aubrey on the channel?
I don't want to come across as it's always like that. It's rainbows and sunshines where I am. But it's all to do with, and I don't want to get deep about stuff, but I come from a very little country called Malawi. And Malawi is, at the time when I last checked, 6th or 7th poorest country in the world. And therefore, the things that are big to me are somewhat taken for granted for other people, you know? So very little things you learn, and perspective teaches you to be very grateful for them. And so I'm kind of living in this space where I'm grateful for everything, grateful for health. But when we talk of running, especially, I remember my first 10K race being 1 hour, 8 minutes. And so when you get 48 minutes, that's very big. But in terms of personality, I think the thing that sort of helps people sort of hold on to the channel is just authenticity. I don't feel like using fancy words. I speak how I speak. You get the guy you're seeing now, and that doesn't need creativity because it's always authentic and sincere. So hopefully what you see on the channel is truly who I am.
Well, let's talk about two things, because I think there's two sides to what I like about your content. First off is you're running. Obviously, I'm here for running content and love seeing how your perspective on a shoe. And there's shoes that we don't agree on. Like you love the Prime X2. That was like your baby this year.
Absolutely.
We can get into that in a second. And the other side is, I think technically your videos are beautiful. Like you do a really good job with filming, and they're just clean. They're just nice. And you do some fun stuff with your transitions, making shoes appear in your hand, doing the fun stuff to keep you involved in the video. So we'll talk about how you started with running, but I also want to know about how you got into filming and video. And this isn't something that someone just picks up a camera and is as good as you right off the bat. So let's start with running, like, because you're fairly new to running, right?
Absolutely. And so the whole thing starts with health and fitness. In 2013, my son was born. So the little guy is 10. And when we got news of him coming, I was in very bad shape. So I decided I'm going to get in shape, got into the gym, and it got hold of me. So this is weights, that kind of stuff, because you want big arms, all this kind of stuff. It's purely aesthetic, superficial. And once in a while, if you're trying to get trim, you get on a treadmill, you have to do cardio. That's what we called it. And so about a year and a half ago, I got in the same space, and I've got one of these impulsive, obsessive personalities where when something gets hold of me, I just go full force with it. And so I tried running, and I couldn't run without stopping. And I realized how bad I was. And so I decided I'm going to give it a go. And it coincided very well with what you've touched on with photography and videography, because I almost look at it as a Clark Kent kind of thing. So the Clark Kent side of me is a chartered accountant who works in risk management. I work in financial services in central London. And the hobby I had at the time, I met a friend, and he was addicted to photography. So took me under his wing. I learned photography, got obsessed. It got hold of me, progressed to videography to a point where I started doing a business, capturing events, that kind of stuff. But when the progression of the Clark Kent side meant the Superman side died down, so I concentrated on looking after the family, working in financial services, until running happened. And so trying to get better at running, I decided to just give it my all, learning what I could, watching channels like Kofuzi, yourself. There's some guys local to here. And suddenly I stopped running to help me get trimmer in the gym, but rather going to the gym to help me with my running. That's when I realized that actually, you know what? That's all I want to do with my free time. And so that's the genesis of the running. But the content creation side then became, how do I fuse these two things? Because if you give me free time where I'm not with the fiance and I'm not looking after our 3-year-old daughter or my son who I talked about, I want to go running, or I want to do photography and videography. Somehow those two kind of meshed, and the YouTube channel started.
Yeah. And you talk about working out. You're not what I would say, like, when you look, like when people picture a runner in their head, they think of like a very slim, thing like that. You're a muscly dude. You've got like some, like you said, triceps and biceps.
Right.
Yeah. So when you started running with that, did it change the perspective of how you wanted to bodybuild? Like, is it now, Are you like, I don't care about being massive as much as I care about being fit for running?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think it's the point that I touched on in terms of representation, because the people that I appeal to, the people that watch my channel, are probably people like me. I've got a goal now to drop a whole load of weight. Like you said, I'm not Kipchoge or Kiptum kind of
Yeah.
build, you know. But
I don't even know. Is there a lot of runners from Malawi?
you know what? There is, because as you know, when you get into a niche, you suddenly discover, like you buy a car, you suddenly discover everyone
See it
has
everywhere.
your car, you know, that kind of thing. But there are very good runners, but it's sort of held back because of the economic climate I touched on. You know, the very gifted people just don't have the resources to make anything of it. And so it's one of those things where I'm in this privileged position being in England, where it's a very big focus. And I'm sort of going into that running YouTube space. The running community has embraced me, where I can now appreciate things here in England that I definitely didn't see back in Malawi.
Are you going to ask him when he came from Malawi?
Yeah. So talk to us about growing up a little bit, and when did you make it over to England?
Yeah. So my dad is also called Aubrey, big academic guy. He got his master's here in England. So when he got a scholarship to do his PhD, brought the whole gang. And there's like 6 children in my family. So it's a whole African tribe. And he brought us over here. And that was 95, 96. And he completed his PhD in 2000, 2001. So we headed back. I then moved back just by myself in 2010. And I've been here since 2010. So I've made this home. So Malawi is home because its origins. My whole family is still there, but I've got my family now. So I've got my fiance who is actually British, actually English. I've got my 3-year-old little girl and my son. So I've made this home now. So I've been here 13 years. I wasn't even counting. Yeah, so 13 years.
Almost 14.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Hey, and something the audience doesn't know, but we got a little preview of your son before we got on here. You brought him on so we could meet him. He's also in the business.
You know what? I think he's trying to steal my job, that guy.
Yeah. What's he doing on YouTube? What's he going after there?
It's just one of those things where I think it's just my style of fatherhood. I don't want to try to be a dad. I just like to do stuff that I like to do with him. And so we're super big into things like Lego, Marvel, the PlayStation, simply because I don't want to try. I just want to do this stuff that I enjoy. Therefore, my time with him is truly authentic, doing stuff we both want to do. And so when I started with the YouTube stuff, he has an angle to the stuff he does. He makes suggestions, dad jokes, that kind of thing. And I involve him in some places. And so even when you ask him to say, "Oh, is your dad doing good?" Like, yeah, I like his stuff, but I prefer my stuff. He genuinely means it. He enjoys it. And so, over time, it'll be good to just transition it.
He looks like he just took a part off and cloned it. So
yeah. Absolutely. No, he's a really cool guy. You kind of step away from looking at him as your son and go, you know what, he's actually an all right guy I'd like to spend time with, so that's a privilege.
That's the best feeling as a parent, when your kids start to be like, I dig that guy. He's a cool guy on his own. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's much bigger when they say the same about you.
Yeah, my kids don't do that.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay, so you get into running a little bit and you realize you love it. What is the first race you sign up for?
So I did, I want to say, the London Winter Run last year. And yeah, that was February last year. And it didn't quite feel like a race as such. You just want to be part of stuff. Actually, you know what? I lie. My first one was Run Through. So here in the UK, there's a company called Run Through. They host a bunch of running events. And it was in this time where I'm trying to bodybuild, that kind of thing. I wanted to do this half marathon. I got up, I went there and I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm signed up for the half marathon, but I'm kind of nervous. I don't think I'll do it. Can you downgrade me to the 10? And I did that 10K. That's the 1 hour, 8 minutes that I did, which I was very proud of.
Are you glad you didn't do the half, or did you wish you
Absolutely,
had
absolutely.
Right.
I wouldn't have been in this, you know. It's one of those things where I felt like, you know, I should have written my will way beforehand, even running the 10K. I didn't know if I was going to make it. So if it had been a half marathon, it definitely would have been a DNF for sure. But the 10K was hard, you know, and it kind of, I like failure if it charges you to do better next time. And I think that's what happened. And it exposed my weaknesses. And I hate being shown weaknesses, which kind of gave me a zeal to get better at it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like there's a group of people who go out and do a race and maybe didn't get the results and hated it and then never sign up for another one. And then there's people like you who are like, well, I can clearly do better. And then they work towards the next race.
Absolutely. Especially if you're honest enough to say, I didn't prepare, you know? And with the beauty of being on YouTube, there was a guy who watches the channel and said, you know what? You're just running. If you would like, this guy was a newly qualified running coach. Let me take you under my wing and I'm going to train you. And I accepted, you know? And so that was the first time that, and I want to say that was beginning of May 2023, that I actually took up running. That was the first time where I'm learning, like, actually, the workouts you were doing in the gym, they're truly for bodybuilding. There's actually workouts. Like, that word to me is not synonymous with running. What do you mean workouts on a track? Workouts require dumbbells. What do you mean? You know, so he's got me doing all these reps, these intervals. And I was like, all right. And that then kind of channeled, you know what, we need to get better at this because my heart can't maintain what this guy is asking me to do. But over time, I started seeing changes, both physically, performance, and even just enjoying it.
Yeah,
it does make a difference.
That's crazy. I was going to say, how did you, before this guy took you under his wing a little bit and gave you training, like how did you even know what to do to train for the 10K or the half that you signed up for?
Honestly, I didn't have a plan. And you take it for granted. Like, now that I know all this stuff, you take it for granted. And I think that's why I really love just serving your average everyday person that wants to get into running and wants to run. Honestly, like, at the very best, I remember downloading the Nike app. What's my man's name? Coach Bennett.
Coach
Bennett. Yeah.
We've had him on the show. He's fantastic.
I love him. I love it. I'm on his Instagram too. I listened to that guy, did a few of his stuff. It was too hard. Then I dropped it, you know, that kind of thing. And then the Nike app gave me a program to follow to try and do certain things, but it just wasn't tailored to me, you know, so it didn't quite work. And then I got shin splints, all this kind of stuff. But honestly, I just went out and I just ran. What I haven't mentioned is I was brought up in a basketball family. And so my dad is big pioneer basketball player in Malawi, and shoes were Jordans, you know? And if you're not in Jordans, maybe you could do Dunks, you know, that kind of stuff. And just being honest, those are the kind of trainers I would go running in. Because I didn't really know, because
I was going to ask you, what was your first, when you ran that race, what shoe were you wearing?
Actually, no, that was an On Cloud Swift because it looked cool.
Yeah.
Didn't feel so cool, did it?
Definitely not. I tell you what, that version of Swift, I tell you what, actually all of them, super firm. But it looked cool, and that's what I was concerned with. But that kind of gave me I went into a running shop, and the shoes that the guy was showing me, honestly, functionally, amazing. I don't want to say what shoe it was, but it was the
I know what it
ugliest
was.
thing I had
We
ever
know
seen.
what it was. You can say it.
So you can imagine, right? Cool black guy over here, powered by swag. I'm in my Jordans. What do you want me to wear that thing for, right? And so the whole shoe thing became a big fascination, and I actually realized they're actual running shoes. So I don't know what the vocabulary is where you guys are, because I know you guys say sneakers, but the words are used here are trainers. So you've got dress shoes that you wear at the office. The casual, sportier ones are called trainers.
Yep.
That
We call them trainers
implies
sometimes.
that's what you do your training in. Not running shoes. Your Air Max is a trainer. So if you want to buy them, so you put Air Max on and you go running, before you know it, you're injured, you know? So the fascination when I went and did my gait analysis, this guy's talking to me about all sorts, and it just sounded like algebra equations, which didn't make sense to me. I got this fascination of running shoes. Oh, then I put on a pair of running shoes and they felt amazing. And this is the kind of thing that kind of got me into, I guess, these three things that form this perfect triangle of running, content creation, and running shoes. And that's how I sum up all I do.
Well, it is interesting for me. You know, it started off with a fascination similar to yours of wanting to find the right shoes for me to enjoy running. And it did matter what they look like. And it does matter how they feel on your foot. So is finding a shoe that looks good, feels good, and makes you motivated to run, that's like the trifecta. So that really works for me. But what I've found that like the longer we've done content, the more I want to help other people find that stuff. So it's like I want more people in the sport. I want more people enjoying it. So the idea of that we can say, hey, here is a shoe that's going to make your run or your running experience the best it can be. And it is, you know, it is subjective. So it's not like just necessarily the shoe that I love is the one that you're going to love. But in general, there's a range there that if we show the shoes, you can find something in that range that is going to work for you. And that is like, I think one of the services that you do as well, whether you know it or not, is you're helping other people enjoy the sport. And if you help them enjoy the sport, they stay in it longer, they get more out of it, and it becomes a habit instead of a chore.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the first thing I'd say about you guys. But you have your own way. No one can replicate what you guys do. And that's what I like about it. There's a group of people here called the Run Testers. They offer so many different perspectives of the one shoe. And I like that. What I liked about what you guys then do, inviting people like Chad, when you talk about the bigger guys reviewing the running shoes, I like that kind of diversity in opinions, because like you say, you guys might not agree with my opinions over some shoes. And there've been some of your reviews where I've gone, whoa, that's the best shoe ever. No, don't do that to me, you know?
Yeah. Well, that is funny because, like, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, you love the Adidas Prime X2, and it didn't work for most of our team. Now, Chad, who is our heavier runner, and Alex, who came in to talk about that shoe, when we say heavy, we in the U.S. we call them Clydesdales. Like if you're above a certain weight and running, and it doesn't matter if you would be considered heavier because you're like jacked with muscle, or if you're heavier because you're just a bigger dude. It's just like at a certain time you become a Clydesdale runner. It's usually it could be tall too. So they also really love the Prime X too. So I think that part of the thing is that on a spectrum of you need different opinions, and like what I'm going to like versus what you're going to like, the amount of pressure that's being put on the plate, how much cushioning you need under your body for your size is different. And we can talk about the things that aren't different. So here's the stack, here's the drop, it's got a plate, it's got this foam, it's got this upper. But running in it and the feeling, the sensation is going to be slightly different for different runners. And even between myself and Megan, we'll disagree on stuff sometimes because I'll be like, hey, what are you talking about? And she's like,
All the time.
yeah, she'll be, no, I mean, there's a lot that, but like Megan loves cushion, which for, you know, she's not a giant dude. Believe it or not.
So you know what? I have a natural bias towards max cushion shoes, and it's not even that the size thing, but this running thing is already hard. Okay, so the fact that I'm out running, I'm already suffering for it. Yes, I enjoy it, but what do I want to feel the firm ground for? Take me away from the ground. Just let me focus on being alive as I run. You know, so if the Nimbus is going to do that for me, and I tell you what, on running, thank goodness they did that Surfer 7 and followed it up with the Eclipse, because the shoes they had before that, I'm telling you now, it's one of those things where I wore it because of the aesthetics. You like the on look, you know. So Primex, the first one, great shoe. A lot of people loved it, but for me personally, the feeling of the second one just changed a whole load of things. Where I did my second ever half marathon. So let's just put it out there. I've never ran a marathon before. The day I get the boldness to do so, it's gonna have to be, I don't know, Prime X4 when they've done it to like 70 millimeter stack. Because I'm going to be running all that time, you know?
Yeah. No, and first of all, I've never related to you more than when you just said you don't want to feel the ground when you're running. That is the best. Like, I love the max cushion shoe for that. Like, I don't want to feel the ground. There's like there was this whole movement of like minimalist, and feeling the ground was good for your gait and blah, blah, blah.
Muscles.
I'm like, I don't care. I want to feel good out there, which means I don't want to feel the ground. So just want to reiterate that is, I agree. 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen on some of these running events, I've seen guys running bare feet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm thinking, well, I admire you for it. I can't do it. You know, I can't do it. So
I've also seen those guys picking glass out of the bottom of their feet during a race. So
I just can't do it, you know. So for me, when we review these running shoes, where you're going to offset either the return of energy versus the squish or the cushion you're going to get, I'm choosing the cushioning all the time. But it's always amazing. Actually, you know what? I'd like to know from you guys, the one shoe I have found, whilst a lot of manufacturers will claim to have a good mix of both. Now, I know you guys have close affiliations with brands. You work very well with some. Me, I don't necessarily. I'm not loyal to anyone. But the Rocket X2, oh my goodness. Now, the comfort. So it feels like someone at Hoka just woke up and decided to, let's start making running shoes. Because I'll be honest with you, it's the recent ones that, I mean, loyal Hoka fans will kill me for saying this, but the Rocket X2, Mark X, CLO, and whatever else is coming out that I saw you guys expose on at the running, is it the running event?
The running event, Yep.
I'm just excited because...
Okay, there's one that I can't tell you about right now. When is this coming out? Maybe I can.
No. I don't know.
It's going to be right on the edge. We're helping launch
we'll tell you off the record
new shoe.
later.
Yeah.
All right.
Hoka,
okay.
That you will, it'll be in your wheelhouse, and
for sure.
You might change your mind about what you begin to run a marathon in.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking for that one shoe that I'll hold very dear for that event.
Now, and it is funny. You bring up that we do have relationships with brands, but believe me, we don't. When it comes to reviews, they know that we talk to them up front. We're like, hey, we can do this project, but it's not going to influence or have any. You're still not going to see the review before we do it, and we have to be honest because that's what our audience expects. Now, it's funny because I do understand for the audience. Sometimes it is hard to be like, no, it's impossible. They can't. You can't be both. But we really do keep it separate between paid and non-paid, and we don't get paid for, we intentionally, we could if we wanted to, but we do not get paid for shoe reviews. So we do our shoe reviews and then we do our events and stuff with brands. But it is the advantage for us is that we do get to talk to the designers. We get to see like them in development. We get to watch you sometimes go from first iterations to last iterations. So we know what they're trying to achieve. So in that aspect, sometimes it can influence you in the way that you know what the intention of the shoe is. So we might know, here's what they're trying to do with it, and here's how they achieved it or did not achieve it. But a lot of times we are looking at a shoe and we go, that's what you're trying to do with this, and this is not that shoe. Like, you are not making that. You think you're making this shoe. That is not what this shoe is for. As a matter of fact, one of the famous ones for us was the Nova Blast. When they first came out with it, they said it's not a running shoe. And we're like, it's a running shoe. They're like, no, it's kind of like a gym lifestyle. We're like, no, that's a running shoe. And now Nova Blast is one of the top newcomers from ASICS. And you've got to like that shoe, right?
Absolutely. So I haven't ran in the new one. It's the conundrum of the brands that have taken notice will send me some shoes. Actually, do you know what? I celebrated today. I feel like I've totally legit made it. I received my first pair of running shoes today from a brand that is unreleased, under embargo. Now, this is nothing. It's serious now. It's official that I'm a YouTube
which
reviewer
brand
now.
was it? Which brand was it?
From Puma, and it's not the one you think.
You got something we don't have.
I don't know if I'm even thinking.
yeah, because I've been bugging them. I'm going crazy about the Fast R. I'm going crazy about that. I definitely want to try that. But I received a pair of shoes, and I was like, wait, unreleased? No, it's official. It's official.
Congrats,
I'm an official YouTube reviewer now.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
yeah, you have been for a while, but
yeah.
I'd like. What did you call the brand?
Oh yeah. So this is another pronunciation difference. We over here say Puma. You guys say Pumas.
Yeah, Puma.
Puma. I thought it was someone who says Puma.
Do you know it's funny? The Germans don't say it the way the British say it either.
Yeah. So
German
I say Adidas.
Yeah. We have to. Okay. I get a little crap for that over here in the States. It'd be like if I was saying croissant or football for soccer. But the fact of the matter, the man's name was Adolf Dassler. Adi was short for his first name. His last name's Dassler. Adidas.
Right.
That's how the name came about. So Puma, though, you guys are nuts. I mean,
you know what? I got guys telling me when I do my reviews. I was saying Hoka before. I should be saying Hoka. I say Nike because everyone here says Nike. You guys say Nike. Mm-hmm. What else? What else is there that you guys mispronounce?
I like it. You guys, you were saying the Hoka. You know how it used to be called Hoka 1-1? It was really Hoka One.
Yeah. One, yeah.
And try saying that with a straight face.
Yeah, no, you can't. So yeah, thank you for simplifying it to just Hoka.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your top 3 favorite shoes right now.
Rocket X2. For the longest time, I was the biggest Vaporfly 3 fanboy because what they did in the breathable upper, the flying it, what they did in the weight reduction, I loved it so much that when they came out, they didn't have my size, so I got a women's colorway, and I got the pink one. Now,
that's not the women's colorway.
Is it not?
No, it's just a regular colorway.
Oh, this was specifically the women's one that I bought. And so for the longest time, my benchmark for a running shoe was the Vaporfly 3 and the Rocket X2, man. The Rocket X2 has just changed things. For daily trainer Max Sack, the Eclipse. So for me, I kind of, in one of my reviews, I said, when you guys marketed the Monster, the Cloud Monster, and gave us Get Weird, Max Stack, this is what you meant. The Cloud Eclipse is exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
And so when they did the Surfer 7, it kind of was a prelude to it. Like, okay, I like what you've done here. Lost the plate. This actually feels like a running shoe. And then you gave us a Surfer 7 on steroids, which I was like, yeah, let's go. Absolutely.
I agree. I
So,
think that little piece of
The speed board.
Yeah. Well, it's not. Well, you know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
But the Trussic system, or whatever you want to call it, on the bottom of the shoe really does take the shoe and elevate it, because it's not quite as dead underfoot. It keeps it moving a little bit.
Yeah, I was just curious about this placement. Like when you tap on it and you can hear it, or that kind of. I was just curious about it. But you know what? Running shoes with that high stack get criticized for stability. They've done it well, and I think it's not a dead shoe like you explained. For me personally, benchmark for cushioning will always be the Invincible 3, but that gets criticized for it's just squish and it feels dead to some people. But for me personally,
that was not a fit. Yeah. See, that's an interesting thing. Like the force you're putting on a shoe changes the dynamic of the shoe. So like that shoe for me, the Nike one is really hard for me to run in. It's heavy. That again, you don't seem to mind, and maybe it's because you're so strong. You don't seem to mind the shoes that are a little bit on the heavier side. Both those, like between the Prime X2, which is, what size foot are you?
It would be a 10.5 your size,
Okay,
9.5 UK.
Okay, so you're the same size as I am,
Right.
Shoe size. So that shoe is close to 12 ounces.
Right.
That to me, I used to like it.
Wait, but you love it. So what are you using that shoe for?
So I think this is where the difference comes in. One of my favorite guys here is a guy called Ben Is Running. Honestly, love the guy. They paced me to my first ever sub 50. He reviewed a shoe, and when you look at his stats, he's talking about a zone 2 run, and I look at the pace and the heart rate he's talking about. When he reviews a speed shoe versus when I review a race day shoe, the kind of paces I'm kicking out, if I can get, and sorry, over here, it's largely speaking Ks, not miles.
I'm learning Ks, it's fine.
All right, there you go. So I ran oh yeah, one more thing before I finish this one. Do you say ASICS or ASICS?
ASICS.
All right, okay, fine. We're together on that one. So they have an annual event. It's held in July. They pace me to my sub 50 in there. There is a section, I did a vlog of this, where we're running together. Honestly, you look at my face, you can tell I'm near death. Max heart rate for that event was 194. This guy running beside me is 134. I'm thinking, somebody call an ambulance at the finish line, because I don't know what I'll be like when I get there. Now, I ran that in a Cloud Boom Echo 3. He ran in Speed Sky, I want to say. Now, if we reviewed this shoe together, the Cloud Boom Echo 3, that race to get sub 50 is obviously 5 minute per K pace. That's me going fast at 10K. 10K for me at 5K, if I do that in a Prime X2 Strong, I'm probably not going to see anything different. Some of these shoes will come alive at a faster pace that you guys will probably run in that I can't dream of, even when I'm doing my 400 meter reps. So I consider some of these shoes absolutely come alive at certain paces, which is just unrealistic for me. So for me, I've just sort of made it up in my mind. I just want a shoe that feels good, So if it comes with a little excess weight, that's all right with me, because I'll never push that shoe fast enough to warrant the kind of pace or the feel of the shoe that I really need.
Yeah, I think though that for me, I feel like I can get more turnover on a lighter shoe. So when you say the most out of it, like I feel like there are shoes that are harder for me to move forward. And so that's where the weight comes into it. And I think that's what, when we look at the Evo 1, they're trying to prove as well, is that the least amount with the most cushioning and energy return, that's the magic that you're going to get. And you know what? You keep talking like a little bit down about your pace, but you're doing great.
I was going to say, Aubrey, you just ran a 7:47 minute per mile 10K.
Yeah.
Which And you're calling yourself a quote average runner. Like, you gotta give yourself some more credit, dude.
You know what? I've caught a little flack. Do you know what? I used to introduce myself, and it was coming from a place, honestly, of sincerity, because of the times I've told you I used to run. And some of the comments, especially on the recent race vlog, like, no, you shouldn't call yourself that, because average runners don't run that kind of pace. You know, so I think let me not argue with you. And it's not a statement of arrogance. I think you're right. You know,
Yeah.
You got to. And you're right. It is also, you know, in that predicament, it is all subjective. So, you know, when we talk about, and I think that people get, you know, sensitive about pace anyways, talking about pace. But when we talk about a slower pace or faster pace, what people don't realize, we're talking about in our mind for what we expect for our run. So like, if I think I can run X and I come up short of that, I use the term slow to describe it, when that could be somebody's PR or whatever.
Correct.
So it's, you know, we all just need to settle down. Just, it is what it is.
No, absolutely. And I think you're right. You know, I think you're right. And it's perspective. It's comparing yourself to how you used to run before, all those kind of things. But I think I'll still hold on to my point, Thomas. I think it's just one of those things where some of these shoes won't feel any different. So like I could run that pace that I ran, and maybe with marginal gains here and there. But the paces that I run, especially now that 2024 is all about half marathons, I wonder what that's going to look like in terms of my pace, how I'll run, and what shoes support me best on that. But I can predict it's probably going to be the Rocket X2.
I got that feeling.
When you started Aubrey running your YouTube channel, was your goal to do shoe reviews, or what was the main thought of, like, what was your first video you uploaded?
So I've always had that channel going back to like 2000 and whatever, as a profile. It never really had anything on there. But I guess a bit of the backstory is connected to what I say I do professionally. I was made redundant from my last job, and this is going into February 2023. And I had time on my hands, and I decided, let me pick up my channel, because I would throw videos here and there. If you look on there, you will see I will have done my race vlog for the London A6 the year before, but nothing to the scale of what I'm doing now. So when I was made redundant, I had this time on my hands, and I thought, you know what, let me put all that I have into this channel and see what happens. And so what was the first shoe? I want to say the Nimbus 25. And it was intentional for SEO purposes. Let's go with, I know a shoe that's going to come out. A lot of people are going to want to look for it. Let's see what can happen. Then I got the Fresh X More V4, did that. And before I knew it, I realized I had a voice. I started with a lot of imposter syndrome, which you guys are kind of knocking a bit of reality into me to say, you know what, acknowledge that you're actually a good runner. But at that time, what could I really say about running? What could I really say about running shoe reviews? You find yourself parroting the Kofuzi, you find yourself parroting Believe in the Run and all this kind of stuff. And I realized, actually, you know, my ignorance is probably my best asset right now, because I could just speak how I'm talking to you now and talk of the fact that I'm not that good of a runner. So if you look at the first set of videos, before I introduced myself as an average runner, I would say, I'm Aubrey, I'm not very good at running. And that was part of I then promoted myself to, I'm a very average runner. I've lost the very, I'm now feeling average. A whole lot of people have slapped me across the face and said, you're not even average anymore. So I don't really know what I'm going to say now. I'm going to say, Aubrey, and I've been on Believe in the Run podcast.
I don't know. I think what you can do.
That's the tagline. I like it.
What you can do, Aubrey, is you can say you're an average runner so that the person watching feels like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable here. And then you blast them with your fast time. Megan, I want you to help me do an Aubrey thing. So I'm Aubrey. Now put the shoe in my hand. There you go, just like that. If you're not watching the video, you don't know the magic that just happened. But yeah, that's one of my favorites that I see that you do, Aubrey, is make shoes appear in your hand. But,
yeah, no, it's just adding a little pizzazz, adding a little creativity.
It's fun.
And doing this stuff and just enjoying it.
So you said as soon as you realized you had a voice, so you upload your first couple of reviews of the Nimbus, the More before, what were you getting interaction online? Like what happened that made you feel like, oh, I should keep doing this?
I think part of it is that impulsive, obsessive nature that I have. I wanted to see what could come of it whilst I had the time. And it was running in parallel with actually trying to run better. But at the time, I've got a few soft spots for a few brands. So at the time, at the end of March, I had 400 and something subscribers. Yeah. And I thought, if there is something I've got going for me is the production value in what I'm doing. And having studied marketing before, these brands want to associate their product with this kind of quality, but they don't know who the heck I am. So message a whole lot of people and saying, this is what I'm doing. Would you mind sharing with me some of your products and I'll talk about them. Mizuno had released the Wave Rebellion Pro. And I asked and they said, yes, you know, one of those where you get surprised, like, oh, really? You're actually going to send it? So they sent it and I couldn't believe it. Ultra did the same.
How good is that feeling when you get a box in the mail and you open it up and there's a beautiful pair of shoes in it and you're like, I manifested this. Like I made this happen. Like, how good was that feeling, the first pair of shoes that you got sent to you?
I can't, and I think this is I want to ask you guys, I've got one question for you guys and I'll ask it after.
Okay.
But I can't look at people in the face and say I'm not biased. I am. So Ultra, for example, they sponsor my local running festival. So they do a 10K, they do a 5K, 10K half marathon where I live, and Ultra sponsors it. But at the same time, when I had 600 subscribers, they've got a tech rep. And this guy said, okay, I'll support you. Let me know what you need. Now, my bias is not that I'm going to say all these nice things about these shoes. I go all out in the production of what I do with their products because I want to associate their marketing full, but I will give my true and honest opinion because I'll give you an example. They sent out the Touring 7. I enjoyed the shoe in terms of its performance, but it doesn't look as good as it performs. It still has this old look, in my opinion. Mind you, black guy swag, Jordan, that kind of thing. Can you make it align to that?
Could you put a Nike swoosh on the side?
There you go. So, and it's one of those things, just to answer your question, to have a whole brand recognizing what you're doing and saying, we actually want to associate our product with this guy. It's the biggest vote of confidence you can get in someone in my area, So for every brand that sort of recognizes and sends you a product, especially if you didn't have to pay for it, it's an amazing feeling.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the first shoe that I got, and I think it might have been a New Balance.
It was. I remember it was.
Yeah.
So when Megan and I were working together, I was like doing Believe in the Run, mostly the website, every once in a while doing a video. And she was working near me and she's like, wait, you can just ask these companies, they'll send you a shoe. I'm like, yeah, they'll send the shoe if you want it. If you want, you can see if you can get a shoe. And so Megan is a hard worker and immediately she went out and probably emailed like several shoe companies and the next thing
similar
you know,
to what you're saying, just like that.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, Megan's at her desk and she's like, look at these shoes I got.
And what do you remember what it was? Do you remember what shoe it was?
It was a baby blue New Balance shoe with a yellow bottom.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what
it was one of a more minimal one.
Yeah.
I think it was like an MT 100 or something like that.
When I first started running, it was like right when the minimal shoes were like very popular, which I cannot believe that I kept with the sport running in those. But now here we are with all the Max Kush, so it worked out okay.
Yeah, she just had to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question I wanted
ahead.
to ask you guys, do you ever have this conundrum between gratitude for brand support and just honesty? I think there's a conundrum, a dilemma that I sometimes have because of this gratitude mentality that I have. And if I paid for this shoe myself, I probably would have phrased this differently, that kind of thing. But I still will give my own opinion, and it's very true. But do you guys ever have that dilemma of, do I say it like this? Actually, tell a guy to edit that out. Maybe let's not say it this way, and that kind of thing.
Well, the one cool thing that we have is, one, we have a team that kind of keeps each other in check. So like if somebody's being a little too kind or maybe hedging an issue, one of the other people will speak up and be like, nah, come on. That's some bullshit. That sucks. Like, do that. The other thing that we have that I really enjoy is, as we've developed relationships with brands and the teams that are making the shoe, we found out that they'd much rather have the honest feedback, and they'd much rather hear what's wrong with the shoe so they can improve it, rather than hearing, the last thing they need is a bunch of parrot heads out there going, this is the greatest shoe on the market. You should get it. It feels great to run. They don't want that. They'd rather have, and that way, when you do have a positive thing to say about the shoe, people listen.
It means something.
Like, okay, yeah, I've heard these guys talk. They didn't really love the last version, or they didn't like that. And they know that they can kind of trust it. Now, the other great thing is that sometimes we don't put the reviews up. So if we get a shoe that's a real dog, having those relationships with the brands that we do appreciate, and we love having access and learning what's coming up next, seeing what's trending in the industry, that kind of stuff, it helps us frame our perspective on things. So in that case, yes, there's a bias because we know where things are headed.
Right.
But when we talk to them and we can say, hey, just got this shoe, really not going to like it. Would you like personal feedback, or do you want us to go ahead with a review?
Oh, I see.
Because if we review it, we're going to shred it. And so
I feel like you have the burden of your name, and therefore, if Believe in a Run said this, oh my goodness, whether that is a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, to a certain degree. But it's funny. So we went to the running event one year, and I literally just bashed a bunch of shoes. And every brand is there, and you have to walk past their booth or be there. And like On's very aware that we used to think their shoes sucked. And we kind of would walk by them and be like, avert our eyes. And then we found out, like, no, they're like, hey, we want to make a shoe that gets a good review on Believe in the Run. How do we do that? Like, they're going to keep like, people think we won't get shoes if we bash a company. We get more shoes when we bash it, because they're like, well, then try this one.
Gotcha.
Like, get this one, do this. So one thing I can, I don't think you're asking for advice, but I'm going to give it anyway. If there's one thing I could say is honestly give your honest opinion on the shoe. And, there's people sitting on the sidelines who haven't even tried the shoe sometimes that are going to tell you, oh, you're bought by the company, that's why you like this one.
Right,
or,
right.
Oh, you don't like this one because you've always hated this brand. And you're going to hear it. You're going to get criticized whether you do it or don't do it. So you got to kind of just stay true to you. And I love the fact, like when you were like Prime X2 is the greatest shoe, I wasn't like, Aubrey's full of shit. I was just like, okay, that shoe seems to work for people that don't mind a heavier shoe, that want that extra cush. That's his opinion. That's great. And it doesn't take anything away from our opinion if you have a different opinion. Right. So like, I feel like sometimes people are so wrapped up in being right about a shoe, or, they want their opinion to matter. Where it is like, hey, we just happen to have a platform where we can get our voice out there. Yeah. Yeah. I also have been doing this since 2009. So I've tried a few shoes, right? We've gone through it. So I feel like there's some things that I do have bias towards my own things because I'm like, I've seen a few things. I'm
Right.
like that
right.
old guy
No,
on the hill.
I hear you.
I've seen, But just tell them how you feel about a shoe because there's somebody out there that's going to feel the same way you do.
I feel like Aubrey's already doing that. But
Yeah.
You don't need Thomas's advice. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No,
And
but
Megan says
I
that
think there's merit in what he just said in terms of having the boldness to kind of just articulate your honest thoughts, having the boldness to do so because it's your channel and the right people that want to listen to opinion will find it. There have been times, and I think it's part of who I am as a channel. There have been times where actually I'm not going to review that shoe. And I have shoes that were sent to me that I've never reviewed. Don't know if I should talk about it, but I just want, I don't know if I can review this shoe. And so I left it. And that's as honest as I can be. I guess the omission of that review, one, not only somebody might like it, but I've got literally nothing nice to say about this shoe at all. So I just left it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aubrey, unveil the shoe now.
Offline. You'll be pleased to know the second iteration of this shoe does the trick.
Okay.
All right.
I'll tell you after.
All right.
All right.
Cool. We have secrets to share
So
later.
Megan, I gave my thoughts on it. You didn't say anything
About what?
about like the honesty and the bias.
Oh
and,
no, I would have the same answer as like it's ironic that the closer we've gotten to the brands, the more they appreciate the honest feedback because a lot of times too, they'll have internal conflicts where designers think one thing, salespeople think another thing, and marketing thinks another thing. And so when they can get an outside party to say, this is what we think, then it's kind of like, there's no one to blame. It's like, this is what the people are saying.
We've had internal people say, I just sent your review to the other team because I've been telling them the same thing the whole time.
Right.
Nobody's listening.
and that would validate exactly what you're thinking. But I think from my perspective, all I am is just a guy. I like to call it the YouTube studio, but really I'm just in the garage. I've done it so it looks swanky, but you get established people where brands are actually going to pay them to go to a whole different country to attend a launch event, running a shoe, and that might mess around with your moral compass or how honest you're going to be. Because you know what, next time they launch it, if I say this, they're not going to take me again. That kind of thing. Whereas me, I'm just a guy, and you send me, I'm just going to give you my views or not give them at all. I just wonder for the bigger channels that I watch, and I genuinely just want to know this as a guy, a fan of a whole lot of other channels, if you're ever impacted with such things kind of to affect how honest you would be. And I think you say it well, the fact that you've got a team kind of would keep you grounded into that, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, and it's a question that I think everyone wants to know the answer to as well, because I mean, we know it from the comments we get on our YouTube channel. So yeah,
but
it's valid.
The thing is, so say you get, so we went to Japan with ASICS and it was fantastic. It was one of my favorite trips I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is we didn't have to review a shoe or anything about that. What we were there was to share the experience. So we can compartmentalize the difference between sharing an experience and reviewing a shoe. So sometimes if we go to an event, so we went to an event with Solomon one time where they took us out to San Francisco. We did a bunch of stuff. We show us running in the shoe. We show us having the good time in San Francisco. We did not do a video review of those shoes and say, here's the bullet points they'd like you to hear. We'll sometimes be like, hey, if we're going to be part of a launch, we're not reviewing the shoe.
Yeah.
So, sometimes like that. But there are sometimes Essie.
It is hard. Like to your point, Aubrey, like there's just relationships and people that I love from brands. And it's like, you're like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings kind of, And so there's 100% like that goes through your head of like I have to check myself sometimes and be like, is this really how I feel? Or do I just love that person and I'm trying not to hurt their feelings?
Right.
And that's where either Robbie or myself, like there's been times where So, for example, I think Robbie leans towards the trail shoes a lot.
Right.
Like in certain brands, we all have brands that we like.
Right.
And so they get a step up, but it's like also like you have colors you like, you have, styles that you like. So like Meg likes Max Cushion. Meg didn't even touch, basically. There was a shoe recently that we had. You didn't even review it because it was a low stack shoe. And she's like, I'm not going to lie. Oh, the Takumi Sen from Adidas.
Right.
Robbie and I love that shoe. Megan doesn't like it. So Megan just steps out of the review. And,
Right.
Like you're saying, I had nothing nice to say about it. So I'm just going to see myself out.
And what it is, it's not the brand. It's not the thing. She doesn't like a low stack firm shoe.
Yeah.
Right. No,
I feel like
well.
We've chatted enough on this concept in shoes, and we should let you go, but I do have a few more questions before we do.
Please do.
Your 10K PR you just got, were you training with the coach or whoever you were working with before through this period?
No. So I had a goal of running last year. It was, I want to say September time. I had my first DNF. I was sick the week before. It was the hottest week we had. And I just blew up. It didn't work very well. 3K into my 10K. And that was all we were training for. So that kind of elapsed. That was finished. And then when Hoka were launching their London store, I got invited. And it's just one of those things again. And that's not why I like the Rocket X2, by the way. We've just discussed this.
Sure.
But I attended and I met some people from there, from the company called Runner. And they've got a running app. Put in your details and it tailors depending on what distance you want to do. And that's who I'm training with. I've got a goal to run a quarterly half marathon, with the ultimate one being one in Copenhagen. So that's what I'm training towards. And it's the training that I'm doing now using these 10Ks. So I've got a monthly 5K, monthly 10K, and a quarterly half marathon. It was one of these 10Ks that I just thought, you know what, let's give it all I've got and see what happens. Totally unexpected.
Yeah.
And so I put in my Pace Pro strategy in my Garmin watch. I did my first 1K. I was like, hey, hold on. This feels all right. 3K, 449 per K. What's happening here? Let's see what happens. 5K. Well, I've done 5K before. That was a warm-up. Forget the 5K we've just done. We've got 5K to go. Can you do it at this pace? And 7, 8K, I did my fastest splits in the whole run. I was like, what's happening here? And I say in the vlog, when I do my training sessions, the last split, the last rep, the last whatever will always be the fastest one. So I thought, you know what, let's give this a big push and see what happens. And so I ended it at 48:20. And I've got the audacity to believe that actually I could have gone quicker. And I want to prove myself right. So
that's every time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's see how it happens. Let's see how it goes. But alongside that, trying to drop a few kilos, 5 to be precise. So that's the plan.
What's a kilo versus a pound?
I'm just trying to figure out that math in my head. I don't know. That's a lot of pounds, isn't it?
How many stones is that?
Yeah. Hold on. Hey, Siri. Convert 5 kilos to pounds. Right. 11 pounds.
Oh,
Whoa, that's a lot.
that seems like a lot.
11. It's just the hoodies. The hoodies kind of hide it. But believe me,
Yeah.
I've got it to lose.
Well, it sounds better in kilos.
Are you working with a nutritionist or anything, or what's your plan?
Again, I feel like a Swiss knife, but another one of my knives is, there's a company here called My Protein, and they picked me up and trained me to be a qualified personal trainer. So I'm a level 3 personal trainer, and a part of that is then the nutrition side as well as the exercise. So I'm kind of just self-treating. I kind of know what my calorie deficit should be. There's always a conundrum though when you're doing the running I'm doing to fuel for that and be in a deficit. If you don't get it done right, it's a quick very quick way of just injuries and just being unhealthy. So balancing the two kind of is a bit tricky, but I'm doing it.
That's awesome. Okay, and so the next race is another 5K or 10K, and then the half.
So the 21st of this month is a 5K. My current 5K time, which started at 35 minutes, brought it down to sub 30. And in September, I brought it down to 22:38. The goal is to get it under 21 this year. So I've got a 2024 goal of running a sub 21. That's the plan. And the first attempt of that is the 21st of this month.
All right.
That's amazing.
I expect a video.
Yeah. I'm assuming you'll be running with a video camera for all of the races, and we'll see them recaps on YouTube.
Yeah. So I've just upgraded. The camera I'm using for these race vlogs is just doing me justice. Absolutely amazing. I got a DJI Pocket 3. It's making me feel like Spielberg out there. So it's really cool. But I do the run. I feel like some of them, the cameras will have to go away to just really focus on actual running.
Sure.
But to me, it's much more enjoyable when I film it, talk about it, come back, debrief. But on some of these, we're going to have to get serious and just run.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, I know we're past the hour mark here, so we will let you go, but it was very lovely to chat with you today and fun to get to know you a little bit more. And I'm sure we could nerd out on shoes all day long, but we'll save that for another day.
No, let me close by saying, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, when you do what we do, it's a massive, big deal. I've tried to play it cool, but deep down, I'm screaming like a little girl. I'm on Believe in the Runs podcast. That's a massive thing. Everyone in my house has known about it. You know, it's crazy to kind of see where I am. And I just want to thank you guys for making time and making this possible. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. You have no clue what this means.
Thank you. And the reason, you know, I've said it already, why we wanted to have you on is like, love the energy, love what you're doing. Just like, I just think it's so good for just not just like the running community, people who don't run should watch your channel.
Yeah.
So, you know,
For a smile.
get the vibe. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much.